I'm Tanya Hichert, and I work in the futures field. Scenario planning is the most obvious, well-known tool, but it also includes horizon scanning and working with risks and challenges, where one actively works with the future to get an idea of how things could be different, and then uses that to be able to act on the present. In other words, making different choices, making different decisions, so that one can work towards better futures. The exciting part about the work in collaboration with Centre for Complex Systems in Transition is that it's very creative and encompasses a complexity aspect with it. We've designed the process for this workshop to incorporate a whole lot of futures thinking, but have adapted it specifically to work with these seeds of the good Anthropocene. So what we're doing is to, instead of extrapolating from the present into the future and coming up with sort of more recognizable forms of alternative futures, as one usually would do with scenarios, we've come up with a process that starts with seeds, essentially these little pockets of the future that exist in the present but that are marginal and tiny, and we don't know whether they're going to be able to survive into the further future, where we're looking for a good Anthropocene in Southern Africa. Each group has got 3 of these seeds, and we've specifically chosen the groups to be diverse, and we've chosen specifically divergent seeds to really get some good mix in there, and to get people's futures thinking to be as far removed as possible from these ambient futures that surround us, because we want our visions of the good Anthropocene to trump those ambient futures that surround us. So what happens with the Futures Wheels exercise is, on sticky notes you state a seed as a mature condition, asking what would the world look like if this seed was the way things worked, and from there look at expanding circles or waves of change, which are the impacts and the implications of these seeds as mature conditions. The Futures Wheels exercise gives us the basis for reaching skeleton scenarios, to see where these waves of change that emanate from a mature seed interact with one another, so where they amplify one another or perhaps contradict one another, and what the implications are, what it means if the world looks completely different. And that gives us these sort of skeleton stories or narratives, and people have been asked to, at the end of day 1, come up with 3 future statistics, a headline, and some kind of artistic representation of what they've produced during the day. On day 2, we kick off with deepening and enriching those stories, so that we really have proper visions of a good Anthropocene in narrative form. We then work with those through the remainder of day 2 to connect them to the present by using the 3 Horizons framework, which is a systems tool that helps us understand that the future, a transition space, and the present are all unfolding at the same time. So as much as we have these pockets of the future in the present, in the far future we might have little pockets of the past. And once they've built a 3 Horizons framework, stand back and say, what is this framework telling us? And it's those learnings and insights and sharings and essentially pathways into the future that they'll all bring into their presentations on day 3. So each of the 4 groups will have a rich narrative scenario, a story of what a good Anthropocene looks like, as well as the sort of reasoning and thinking and learning behind what could possibly lead up to it, and what is it that we need to do. And day 3 is really all about putting this together in terms of what have we learned, what insights can we share with one another, how do we go about working to reach and make the sort of future that we'd like to see. And as this project and this work unfolds, these scenarios will hopefully also lead to further work and be used and disseminated widely, so that we can start sharing visions of a good Anthropocene. Because it's by having these stories and narratives of how the world could work with us as human beings dealing with planetary boundaries and social equity issues. If we have good stories about that, we could start making and working towards those futures. A very critical underlying way of working for this whole exercise is to not extrapolate, not to be linear about time or the disciplines from which we come. So a lot of emphasis and work has been put into using a systems tool, which is the 3 Horizons framework. A lot of emphasis has gone into realizing that there are tipping points where things can grow exponentially or decline quite suddenly, and look for those inflection points and those critical decision nodes where we would be able to act towards making a better future.